taking flight. Card Spring Training, sponsored by Woods Basement Systems.
We're out here greeting your third
with
baseman.
Nolan?
Yeah.
It was a great hug. I was damn happy to see him.
One of your feet was in the air in the photo. It was cute.
There's a photo?
Yeah.
All right.
It was a cute photo.
I enjoyed seeing him.
Yeah, I mean, all kidding aside, all this drama all winter, there's no
not
guarantee that was ever going to happen.
No, I'm not kidding at all. You have one of the best third basemen to ever play the game walk into camp. I'm very excited to see him. We got to sit down and talk for a little bit this morning, man. And what I can tell you is he is focused and he is ready. The things that were coming out of his mouth were awesome to hear. He's in a good place, and like I said, I was pumped to see him.
You all have spent most of the winter talking about messaging and talking about runway and opportunity, and how expectations, while they don't shift internally, maybe externally we might see some different things from a usual, pedal to the metal Cardinals club. Does Arenado's arrival here and his place in the lineup change your expectations for what this team should be?
That's the bigger conversation that we're continuing to have, is like, if we're just being completely honest, is all right, who does this impact, and what does it need to look like for us to continue to make decisions that are going to make us better in the long term. So we had part of that conversation this morning. We'll continue to have it. I think during Mo's session, he mentioned a couple names that are impacted by this. And we'll continue to kind of figure that out. Is it easy? No. I mean, we'll have some real decisions to make, but that's part of the business. It really is. So,
but also in the standings, like not just like playing time for young players, but what should be expected to be all in the standings. Does that change?
I will continue to answer that the same way I've always answered it, regardless of how it's asked. Like, that group, we're committed to winning and teaching them how to win. And I've said that there is a conversation to be had as far as like not taking short-term decisions that impact our bigger play here.
Sure.
That remains the exact same.
Talk about runway and opportunity. For Nolan Gorman, does that have to be in the field, or does he need runway to hit?
I'd like to see him develop as an all-around player, but the at-bats are extremely important. So we have to figure out a way to make sure that he's getting those.
Yeah. Is that a situation where, if it works out to where most of his at-bats are at DH this year, if that is what happens, does that fulfill that for you all? Does that give him the opportunity that you think he needs?
Yeah, his extreme value is his power, right? That's what he brings to the club, although he's continuing to improve in all areas of defense. So getting him the at-bats is what matters, and we have to figure out a way to do that.
I'll preface this.
Nolan, I know you've been in contact with him. He said he intentionally got leaner, lighter, wants to be more mobile and flexible. Was that something he shared in what that process?
Yeah, he shared a lot of that and more. And that's my point in saying that he's determined, he's ready. There's a certain fire to him, even beyond what you're used to seeing, where it's just a really, there's just good intent behind all of it. So I'm excited to see it. But it was a really good conversation. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Yeah.
With a guy who's maybe not as much of a pro as Nolan is, this situation could have been a lot messier. How much do you appreciate how he's handled this?
He's handled it really well, especially for something that played out the way it did. But I think when you put yourself in his shoes and my shoes and people within those walls, like, it's not as crazy as maybe the public might have perceived it being. So seeing him walk in today was awesome. Hug him, love the dude. Let's get to work. And it's no different for him. So, yeah.
Ollie, clarity of direction for the team this year is something that you've talked about being really an exciting aspect to you. Is that still something you feel confident in, that you guys are gonna come through with the clarity of what you're looking to do that gave you that excitement as you've talked about throughout the winter?
Yeah, like, we have to take a step much further back than that. Like, this is the development of our minor league system, of getting a ton more staff and different skill sets in through the door, building that from the very bottom all the way through, creating more continuity from that level all the way through the big league level. There's a ton of infrastructure and technology. Like, it's not just clarity to where are you in the standings now with Nolan. It's we're wanting to build something that's going to last for a while and get back to leading the industry in certain areas. That doesn't change, not even a little bit, right? So, like, I understand your question. There's a lot more to it that's in place. Nolan walking through the doors is a good thing. Yeah.
You do a good job always talking about you block out the noise and the things that don't matter. I just wonder if that's something that you maybe feel could be misunderstood without you taking the time like you just do to kind of lay that out and say this is really more what we're talking about when we talk about
Yeah, like the Nolan thing today took 10 minutes. Our meetings with minor league staff, coordinators, step camp, hours, right? So, like, that's my point in all of this. It was great seeing him walk through the doors. There's a lot of other things in play right now to help us get to where we need to get to. To us, in that building, it's not a distraction, not even a little bit. But I understand your question, I really do.
A lot of these things will be decided over spring with performance or injuries.
Yeah.
But as you're looking at the way your active roster currently projects, there are a lot of players with positional flexibility. How can you utilize that to ensure everyone gets what they're looking for? And is there a way to do this just seeing different people in different positions every day?
That wouldn't be ideal, and it's not what they're looking for as much as what we need from them, you know, and what we want for them. But the versatility helps in not having to be at the same position every day. It'd be my preference not to bounce people around for the sake of at-bats. So that's where we need to figure out what this really looks like and how to do it best.
You'd imagine you keep your typical left-handed, right-handed platoons, though. And like years prior, you've had a lineup that you prefer against lefties and a lineup you prefer against righties. That's
part of yes and no. That's part of the bigger conversation of the development part of this as well.
If you
as far as left on left, so yes, to a certain degree, but there's some areas there that I wouldn't, not as black and white as before.
Ollie, what role could you? Just along the development part of it is, and you said learning to win. So exposure to some of the young guys, to maybe even the veterans you have around. In talking with Arenado, what could he play with that? What does his personality bring to a team that maybe was looking a little younger?
If you can model your competitive nature to someone like Nato, that's a really good thing. And he brings a certain intensity to the table that, man, these young guys, just watching how he goes about his business, there's a certain level of intentionality with the great ones, not the good ones, but the great ones, that from the second they walk into the clubhouse, there's a purpose to what they do. And I think sometimes that's missed. Like, guys think that talent is enough, or they don't understand what that extra mile really looks like. And when you watch Nolan work, man, he does that in every area of his game. There's a certain just aggressiveness and like relentlessness to how he thinks about the game, where, man, you want guys to mimic that. So that's why having him in that clubhouse, and these young guys continuing to see one of the best do it, I don't have an issue with that.
Understanding that you also would have had Wilson coming back and all this, but did you wonder what it might be like? Did you have to think about what a clubhouse would be like without that being modeled for guys?
Yeah, you definitely, that's more of the exercise for me in my seat is, what does that look like with him? What does it look like without him? And then where do we need to fill holes and be more intentional as a staff in both of those scenarios? So yeah, a lot of time goes into that part of it.
With when you look at Arenado, just take the trade stuff out of it. We got a ball player who probably, if he retires today, is already in the Hall of Fame. However, last season, a 101 OPS plus, obviously more singles and homers, all that. We talked to him. He's hungry as can be. What is your optimism why he can return to being Nolan Arenado?
I think he has some clarity to what he needs to do from a movement standpoint to get back to that. I think he was limited last year in how he felt overall and what he wanted his body to do compared to what his body was doing. I think there's certain things that Brandt has brought to the table that have allowed him to think through that a little different. that I'm excited to see. So I think there's a combination of things there that could help, but I'd bet on him being Nolan.
You're thinking of starting in the third this year?
You know what? I think so. Yeah.
Ollie, on the pitching side, I think Kent's starting a lot today. He's a guy you've seen in camp a couple times. I mean, he was kind of in the lower minors. I mean, he's kind of moved up levels and kind of done that roster status, being on the 40-man. Does the evaluation process change this time around in camp for him?
I'm not sure if the evaluation process changes as much as you continue to challenge them with what's next for them. So, like, if you watch Sonny, he's a good example, and not just because it's Sonny, but he's Sonny for a reason. Like, you watched how intense he is about from the training room to how he gets here and does his own stuff prior to going into the training room, and then his pre-game stuff, takes them out. Like, there's a certain way he does that you want some of these young guys to take that next step and have a routine that's super precise and purposeful. So that's what's next for him, is evaluating that process and not just how it's coming out of the hand.
As far as like coming out of the hand, what are some of the things that you look at that excite you about kind of what he offers?
And you have that low release, ball just rides. It's tough on hitters. He's continuing to learn how to spin it. So the combination of those things kind of give you some real optimism. You add tightening up the routine and having more purposeful kind of thoughts and actions behind everything he does leading up to taking the ball, and I think that's how you take that next step.
Are you in a position to be able to discuss what your pitcher rotation looks like here for the first couple of spring games?
Not yet. Yeah, let me talk to a couple other guys and just make sure they have clarity to it before announcing it.
Friday, Saturday, though?
It's the same damn question.
Well, no.
But yeah, now you like breaking it up by day.
You mentioned the things being
Sunday.
I make him say it. You mentioned the different things being put in place and the work that's being put in. Some of that's not going to be felt at the big league level for years.
Spot on, yeah.
What will be felt this year?
Good question. We're going to need these young guys that have already tasted the big leagues to take that next step, and I think the same process I just described for Tank applies to several of those guys on the offensive side specifically, but definitely on the pitching side. But on the offensive side, that's going to be needed. I think Nolan, during his session with you guys, said we need to score more runs. There's a lot of truth to that, right? So in order to do that, that's where that work and this off season it was important. But that's that next step for that group, specifically on the offensive side, is before you actually step in that box, the work and the intentionality that's going into that preparation is huge.